Hello, welcome to Levant TV headlines. Syrian government forces and Kurdish militia have fought separate battles with the Islamic State group in a strategic area near the Iraqi and Turkish borders. Some 30,000 Iraqi troops and militia backed by aircraft pounded jihadist positions in and around Tikrit in the biggest offensive yet to retake one of the Islamic State group's main strongholds. Saudi diplomat al-Khalidi, who was kidnapped in Yemen almost 3 years ago and handed to al-Qaeda, has been freed and returned to the kingdom. Tribesmen and witnesses say US drone strike has killed 2 suspected al-Qaeda militants in southern Yemen. And a new UN report says Libya's ability to prevent the flow of weapons into and out of the chaotic country is almost non-existent, and called for the tightening of an arms embargo that the government says must be loosened so it can defend itself. Now let's have a look at top headlines in the Middle East. Starting from Beirut, the Daily Star leads reporting that Interior Minister Nohad al-Mashnoor remained adamant that he will not sign contracts for civil marriages performed in Lebanon. The paper also reports that the Health Ministry, Wa'il Abu Faour, ordered to have an immediate investigation into the death of a 4-month-old baby after 2 hospitals refused to admit him in the North Lebanon district of Akkar. The Egypt Independence leads reporting that the British Minister for the Middle East urged on Sunday that constitutional elections be held in Egypt as soon as possible, in response to reports that Egypt's parliamentary elections due this month have been delayed. The paper also reports that US Secretary of State John Kerry held tense talks with his Russian counterpart in Geneva to end fighting in Ukraine, where the UN says more than 6,000 have died in less than a year. From the UAE, the Khalij Times leads reporting that UAE Attorney General says the niqab-clad woman who allegedly brutally murdered an American woman teacher in a washroom of a mall of Reem Island in Abu Dhabi reportedly listened to lectures by Osama bin Laden and Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, which influenced her beliefs, turning her into a proponent of these destructive and terrorist ideologies. The paper also reports that Bahrain's public prosecutor has charged 17 people with forming a militant group and carrying out bombings that wounded security personnel. Now let's have a look at top headlines from here in London. The Guardian leads Middle East news reporting that Mohammed Mouazi, the Briton identified as an Islamic State executioner, was once a star salesman for a Kuwaiti IT company. The Guardian has learned in fresh revelations about the journey from normality to infamy of the man known as Jihadi John. The Independent leads its Middle East news section saying that a former ISIS fighter has described Mohammed Mouazi, the man revealed to be the executioner Jihadi John, as a loner who shunned other jihadists. Abu Ayman, who has since left the so-called Islamic State, said there was nothing special about the Westminster University graduate and that ISIS had engineered his twisted fame. Telegraph leads Middle East news section reporting that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has arrived in Washington on what he has called a historic quest to prevent a nuclear deal with Iran. Mr. Netanyahu will address the US Congress in a move which has infuriated President Barack Obama and the White House, bringing relations between the 2 countries to their lowest point in years. And now let's have a look at top Middle East headlines in international papers. From Berlin, the Deutsche Welle reports that Iraq's state TV, al-Iraqi television, said on Monday that government forces backed by allied Shiite and Sunni fighters were attacking the city of Tikrit with the support of artillery and airstrikes by Iraqi fighter jets. Militants were reported to have been dislodged from some areas outside the city, but there were no further details. And finally, China's Global Times reports that the Hamas movement spokesperson Sami Abu Zuhri said the decision of an Egyptian court to brand it as a terrorist group makes Egypt unfit as a mediator on Palestinian issues. For more updates, please visit Levant.tv. Thanks for watching and bye for now.